Hello everyone, this is Annie from Drama Crochet and welcome to this new crochet tutorial where I'll show you how I make this bag. We'll mainly focus on the body of the bag because everyone is free to make the strap however they like. Here I just made a braid that I tied at each end, but you could easily make another type of cord or even use a chain like this one, which is easy to attach to the top. This is just a small bag I made as a test. It's like the same system here, but with a different stitch. On this bag, I used the moss stitch. This bag is made in one piece without any seams. I started from the bottom, made this strip here, and then worked in a closed circle with the moss stitch until I reached the top here. And then I made the slip stitch border, the blue one you can see here. And that's it. It's very simple and quick. I don't know if I'll make any small changes throughout the tutorial, but in any case, you can adapt the pattern to your liking. Of course, the size of the bag will change depending on the materials. So if you use a small crochet hook with a fairly thin yarn, the bag will be smaller. For this one, I used the 8mm hook, this particular hook, with a cord knitted with my Kato electric knitting machine. But if you don't have a cord, you can use other yarns like t-shirt yarn. Alternatively, it's perfectly possible to use several yarns at the same time. That is, to triple, quadruple, or even more if you want to use a regular yarn to get a thicker one. The cord here, which was formed by the electric knitting machine, is about 8mm in diameter. Even though it's quite elastic, this part here, for example, is acrylic, so it's quite flexible and quite easy to crochet. Even though the materials of the yarn vary, the diameter remains roughly the same. So it's really up to you to see what you prefer and experiment. Feel free to add your personal touch too. Before continuing, you can subscribe to the channel for more tutorials and follow me on my social media too for lots of crochet contents. To make filming this video easier, I'm going to use this variegated yarn and a 5mm crochet hook. To make the bag quite rigid, you need to use a fairly small hook compared to the yarn. You can use, for example, double-stranded t-shirt yarn with an 8mm crochet hook. But to make the stitches clearly visible, just to demonstrate, I'm using a hook and yarn that match. We'll start with a slip knot. We already know how to make a slip knot. And we're going to chain 31. So to make a chain stitch, yarn over and pull the yarn through the loop. That makes one chain stitch, 2 chain stitches, 3 chain, and we continue. And here I have a foundation chain with 31 chain stitches. Next we're going to skip the very last stitch and crochet into the second stitch from the hook. We're going to make a single crochet. To make a single crochet, insert the hook into the stitch, then yarn over and pull up a loop. So here I have 2 loops on my hook, then yarn over and pull the yarn through both loops. And that's a single crochet. We repeat in the next stitch, insert the hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through both loops. And we continue like that in all the stitches on the foundation chain. And the last single crochet in the last stitch. So here we have 30 single crochets on the foundation chain. We have made 31 chain stitches and we skipped the very last one, which was here, so that makes 30 single crochets. Next, we'll make 2 chain stitches here, Then we'll turn the work to work on the foundation chain from underneath. So we'll work single crochet stitches on the chain in the same stitches as for the previous row. Until we reach the very first stitch in which we worked. And here is the last stitch. So here too we have 30 single crochets. We've worked all the way around the foundation chain. Here we made 2 chain stitches, so there's a space at the 2 chain point. That's what we call the chain 2 space, to refer to the space below the 2 chain stitches we made here. Chain 2 space, there's a small hole. And we are going to do the same thing here, but instead of making 2 chains and closing with the slip stitch into the first single crochet to create the space, we're going to make a single crochet. So look closely. I'm going to insert the hook into the top of the very first single crochet and pull up a loop. So there I have 2 loops on my hook, and I yarn over and pull through both loops. It's a single crochet. And here I have 1 loop on the left and 1 loop on the right. And my hook finishes in the center of those 2 loops. This means we have 2 chain stitches and we're in the middle here. The hook is in the center here to begin the next round. Yes, we no longer talk about rows but rounds when working in closed circle. So we've completed the very first round, and now we'll begin the second round. To start the second round, we make a chain, which doesn't count as the first stitch, but is just to start working in single crochet. We make a chain stitch to begin the round. Then in the space just below, equivalent to the chain 2 space, we'll make a single crochet. So insert the hook into the middle of the space, pull up a loop, and make a single crochet. Then chain 1, skip the first single crochet, you see it's this one, and we'll make a single crochet in the next stitch. So first single crochet, second single crochet, and its stitch is right here in the hole just below the V that's there. So the first little V is the first stitch, the second V is the second. There you go. Then we make another chain, skip the next stitch, and make a single crochet in the stitch coming after. And so on, alternate between a single crochet and a chain 1 with a skipping 1 stitch. So chain 1, skip 1 stitch, and a single crochet in the next stitch. And that's the basis of the moss stitch, as I said. We continue until we reach the chain 2 space here. Normally, if the count is correct, the last single crochet before reaching the chain 2 space should be in the last stitch here, in the last single crochet right here. Then we make another chain 1 and make a single crochet in the chain 2 space. And as before, to turn and move on to the next side here, we chain 2 and make the very first single crochet in the same chain 2 space, in the hole that is there. So I'll make the first single crochet of the second side in the same chain 2 space. Then chain 1, skip 1 stitch, and make a single crochet in the next stitch, as we just saw here. And we continue. And as you can see, the last single crochet is also in the last stitch right here. Then we arrive at the chain 2 space, which is actually a single crochet space when we reach the end of the round. Chain 1 and make a second single crochet in the very first space. So that makes 1 and 2 single crochets in the same starting space. And similarly, to close the round, instead of making chain 2 slip stitch, we'll just make a single crochet. So we insert the hook into the very first single crochet of the round. We pull up a loop and then pass the yarn through the 2 loops that were on the hook. Then we finish the second round. The very first round is just single crochet stitches without any gaps. And the second round is where we started the moss stitch. That is the alternation of single crochet stitch and chain stitch. And all the other rounds that follow will be moss stitch rounds. Here we have 2 tips at the 2 ends of the work, and in those 2 ends we're going to make a right angle, 90 degrees. As with the granny stitch, for example, when you make a right angle, you make 2 granny stitches in the same space with 2 or 3 chains between these 2 groups of 3 double crochets. And it's exactly the same principle with the moss stitch. We make 2 single crochets in the same chain 2 corner space here, and between the 2 single crochets, we make 2 chains as we saw. And for the rest is the same, single crochet and chain. I'll show you the third round. We always start with chain 1 and make the first single crochet in the corner space, right here below the 2 loops of the closing single crochet. Then chain 1, skip the first stitch, which is a single crochet, and we're going to make the single crochet in the chain 1 space. There's a chain stitch here, and I insert the hook directly into the space below the chain. There you go, chain 1, skip the next stitch, and single crochet in the next chain 1 space. And thus, we are working in staggered pattern compared to the previous row. So, chain 1, skip 1, and make the single crochet in the hole. As you can see, the single crochets are staggered. And we continue. Same principle as the granny stitch. I'm reaching the end, chain 1 and the last single crochet on this side, side number 1 and side number 2, and the last single crochet of this first side is in the chain 2 space. That forms the corner to change sides. So last single crochet, chain 2 and turn. And we begin the second side, the first space always being the chain 2 space. And then we continue working in the chain 1 spaces. And the last single crochet of the second side is in the same space as the very first single crochet under the joining single crochet. And there you have it, and I close with a single crochet worked into the top of the very first single crochet of the round. We finished the third round, and it's starting to bend a little. So normally, if you've worked with a large hook and thick yarn and it's nice and stiff, it should start to curve a lot. It transforms into a little boat. We'll add 2 more rounds until we have 5 in total. So here we have 3, 1, 2, 3 rounds, and we add 2 more in the same way. You already know how to do it. So we have 5 rounds, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It should look like this. And if you fold here, we have the bottom of the bag. Starting from the round number 6, we'll decrease to create this fitted shape. I also made this model. It's exactly the same stitch. It's just a yarn, I don't know what it's called, a kind of stuffed yarn that I used with a 5mm crochet hook, this very same hook. And it made a fairly stiff bag. But as you can see, it's exactly the same thing. Here I used double crochet stitches for the base, but I think it's better with single crochets. Starting from the round number 6, here we will work 2 decreases at 2 points on each side. And as you can see, the decreases overlap on those 2 spots. Same here too, decrease, decrease, and we will either use stitch markers or just count them because there are not many stitches. But to avoid mistakes, we'll still use stitch markers. We're going to count the number of single crochets from the beginning of the row. So this is where I start. I'm going to count 5 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to put my stitch marker in the chain space. The chain 1 space that comes right after the 5th single crochet. The 5th single crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and stitch marker. Here we're going to count 6. So here is the chain 2 space. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I put the stitch marker here. There you go. And we do exactly the same thing here. We count to 5 and place the stitch marker in here. From the end, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and another stitch marker. But I'm going to show you how to do it without the stitch marker on the second side. And it's up to you to decide which you prefer. We start the round as we already know how to do. Chain 1, and we go for the moss stitch. First single crochet in the first corner space. And we continue until we get just before the stitch marker. Chain 1. The next space is the marked stitch. I remove the stitch marker. And here we're going to make a decrease. That is, we're going to combine the 2 single crochets that should go here and here into 1 single crochet. So I start the first single crochet and I don't finish it. I start the second single crochet, and here I have 3 loops on the hook. And then yarn over and pull the yarn through all 3 loops. So here I have merged 2 single crochets. And we continue with a chain 1 and single crochet until we reach the second stitch marker. However, I'm going to put this marker back in the space just before the decrease because we're going to repeat the same thing in these 2 chain spaces. This way, the decreases will always be overlapping in the same place. And we continue until we reach the next stitch marker. And we do the same thing. We remove the stitch marker. We make the decrease. I start the first single crochet, the second single crochet, and I finish both at the same time. And I put the stitch marker back in the space just before the decrease. And we continue. There we have finished the first side, chain 2, and here we're going to do exactly the same thing. I remind you that you can use stitch marker just like the first side, but here I'm going to count. And I'm going to make 5 single crochets with the moss stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then I make a decrease. So I make 5 single crochets, decrease, and continue. Here after the decrease, I'm going to make 7 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Then I make a decrease. And finish the round. So normally after the decrease, there should be 5 single crochets too. 1, 2, 3, 4, and the very last one, 5. And we always close the same way with a single crochet. If we count the stitches before the first decrease, there are always 5 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And after the decrease, there are also 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Between the two, on the round number 6, there are 7 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And there you have it. And for the next round, always the same. We start with 5 single crochets. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. So either you count like that, or if you can recognize the decreases, you just know that you have to make the decrease above the previous one. So here is the decrease of the previous round. So I start a single crochet before and after the decrease, and I finish them all together. And we continue. So here we will have 6 single crochet because the principle of decreasing is to have fewer stitches. So here we'll only have 6 single crochets. 1, 2, and 6. So on each round, there will be 1 less single crochet between these two decreases. So here I have 6. On the next round, there will be 5, 4, 3, and 2, and we stop where there are only 2 left. So in total, we'll make 6 rounds with the decreases. So I arrive here, and the decrease is here. Don't forget to chain 1 between each single crochet or decrease. And there it is, just above. We continue. I am an experienced crocheter, so I no longer need to count or use stitch markers because I can distinguish the decrease and I just make the decrease right above the previous one. There it is. Feel free to use stitch markers if you're a beginner or to count carefully as well. It's starting to take shape. I'll let you continue until you have a total of 11 rounds, among which the 6 last rounds have decreases. For the round number 11, the last one, since I won't be making any more rounds above it, I will close it by making chain 2 and a slip stitch in the very first stitch. So normally, you should have something close to this or the larger version. So if you count the decreases, I can see there are 6 rounds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Or you can also know you've done 6 rounds when there are only 2 single crochet stitches left on the last round between the 2 decreases. And that is the case here. After that, it's up to you to stop before or add another round. I stop there because I think it's the optimal opening for the bag. On the multicolored bag, I add a small border with slip stitches in the back loop. So I only work in the back loops each time. But it's also possible to work within the stitch. So I'm going to work within the stitch to see how it looks. So in the chain 1 space, then in the stitch of the single crochet. It can create a different style. This can create a slightly stiffer, less elastic edge. In the chain 2 space, I just make a slip stitch. As you can see, a slip stitch is like a chain stitch. So just one slip stitch and I move on to the next stitch. And the very last slip stitch is in the corner space and we're done. We can cut the yarn and pull it through the stitch without tightening it yet because we're going to form a loop. Here I have a regular medium weight yarn, so I can use a yarn needle, but if you have t-shirt yarn, you'll have to use a crochet hook because I'm not sure the yarn will fit through the eye of the yarn needle. So here it is. To make it invisible, I'm going to pass the needle under the first slip stitch and then go back in there, and that makes an invisible loop. And we need to secure this now, fasten off by tying a knot. I hope this works. And there you go. All that's left is to weave in the end under the stitches. I'm a lazy person and I don't have time. I hope you'll do better than me. We have the body of the bag. For the strap, you can make either a braided cord. Here we have the chain 2 spaces in which you can attach the thread. Here, for example, my strap is very thick, so I used a thinner yarn to attach it in the hole. I used a t-shirt yarn. There, I just threaded it through the 2 holes. Ideally, you'd have some kind of carabiners like this, even just this piece here to attach the strap to the bag. I could have made a strap and just used this to attach them together. This is exactly the same principle as the other one, but with granny stitch, so it's a little softer. I still need to test it because I think something is not quite working right compared to the moss stitch. Thank you for following this tutorial to the end. I hope you enjoyed it, and feel free to share photos of the bags you crochet. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments. Don't forget to like the video if you did, share it, and tag me if you want to share photos of your creations, videos, or anything else you want to share. Bye!